My name is Brian Thompson, and I am an investigative journalist.
When you think of a podcast, you think of an informative, sometimes boring, chat between a handful of people in front of some microphones. However, Brian's take on a podcast has ascended beyond the status quo of your typical boring banter of a podcast into that of what he calls an IJP, an investigative journalism program. Through contacting various sources and gathering evidence, Brian has contacted hundreds of correspondents from all over the world to assist in his investigation.
Thank you for calling Domino's customer support. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson, and I'm calling to inquire about Domino's Pizza's purchase price.
Okay, can you explain to me a little bit more as to what that means?
Well, how much would it cost to buy the company?
Some mock him, others ignore him. Regardless, he has been determined to get to the bottom of an age-old question that we've all been asking ourselves.
Excuse me, sir?
Unconsciously.
Excuse me, sir? Are you here for the live taping of Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's? He's shaking his head now. Okay.
A question he has been investigating for almost 7 years. Whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? In the fall of 2016, Brian Thompson found himself intrigued by true crime podcasts and wondered whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's.
Let's call Brian Thompson and find out what happened to McDonald's pizza. Hello, is this Brian Thompson?
This is Brian Thompson. Is this Austin?
Yes, it is. How's it going, Brian?
It's going all right. How are you?
Not too bad.
From the moment I had the idea to do the show, which I think was about maybe like 9 p.m. one night, to the moment that I actually published it, which was maybe about 2 in the morning, part of the joke was that it was a one-episode podcast that had all the trappings of a real podcast. So I set up a Gmail account, and I put it on Apple Podcasts, and I made a logo, and
Welcome to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, a podcast where I ask the question, whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? A proud part of the Panoply network. I'm your host, Brian Thompson.
I pretended it was on a podcast network, and I'd always been fascinated with this podcast network called the Panoply Network because I listened to this show called You Must Remember This, which was the only show the only show I knew of that was on the Panoply Network. But then if you went to the website for the Panoply Network, they had like 150 shows. So something about that I thought was very funny. So I just mocked up a logo for pizza at McDonald's with the Panoply Network banner on it and just said it was on the Panoply Network. And so a big part of the joke was just that this was a show that had everything a real podcast would have, but it was just one episode. So there was a Twitter account, all this stuff.
He then quickly made 2 phone calls. One, he was hung up on.
University of McDonald's, can I help you?
Hi, do you remember when McDonald's used to have pizza?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember when McDonald's used to have pizza?
And the other, the manager was left confused and apologized. And by 3 a.m. that night, Brian had edited the calls, added some narration, and ended it all off with an off-kilter ad for SquareSpace, not a sponsor.
Thanks for listening to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Follow us on Twitter at Pizza at McD's for breaking news, updates, or just to get in touch. Do you know what happened to pizza at McDonald's? Do you remember it? How did it taste? Please get in touch and let us know.
Initially, this was meant to be like a one-and-done thing.
Yeah, but the idea originally was just to do one episode. Mm-hmm. The whole joke was going to be that this was a guy who decided to do a true crime podcast about this subject. And the only thing I could think to do was to just call McDonald's in the middle of the night and just ask somebody there, why they don't serve pizza or if they still serve pizza. And then just whatever they say is like the extent of my investigation. They're just like, oh, we don't have it, or I don't know why we don't have it anymore. And just be happy with that and stop. And that would be it. The end of the investigation.
Yet, the episode gained popularity overnight, and Brian knew he had to continue. It only took until Program 5 for Brian to receive a cease and desist letter from Panoply's parent, the Slate Group. Brian addressed this issue and wrote back to the company.
In past editions of this program, I would inform you that we are a proud part of the Panoply network, but I can do so no more. Yesterday, I received the following correspondence from Ava Lubell, General Counsel for the Slate Group, parent company of the Panoply network. Mr. Thompson, I'm General Counsel at the Slate Group. I'm writing in reference to the podcast that appears to be entitled, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. I noticed that you've made use of the Panoply logo and referred to yourself as part of the Panoply network. Could you please confirm your formal affiliation with Panoply? If there is no such formal affiliation, we'll have to ask you to remove our logo along with the claim that you are part of the network. Best, Ava Lubell.
He mentioned it was a misunderstanding, as he received correspondence from that of Mark Panoply himself, or rather a confidence man impersonating him.
But, as the bard said, if something seems too good to be true, you better watch out. My suspicions of Mr. Panoply's identity were raised almost immediately when he insisted I wire him $7,500 for what he claimed were marketing fees. He assured me that I would recoup these costs and then some, as he was planning to advertise my investigative journalism podcast, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, during such high-profile programs as ABC's Designated Survivor and CBS's The Case of JonBenet Ramsey.
Brian's character mentioned filing a police report, then apologizing to each and every one of the podcasts on that platform. So naturally, this isn't your typical podcast. Brian Thompson is set to tell a creative narrative that helps viewers question its authenticity, reaching out to various places around the world such as the US government, prayer hotlines, private investigators and martial arts experts, news media outlets, FaZe Clan, and even Ron Howard himself. Brian has gone to great lengths to create a believable narrative that is both comedic and subtle in nature.
My name is Brian Thompson, and I'm on top of a parking garage in Burbank, California.
His efforts are quite underrated, and it's going to be really cool to talk about this today, guys. And a lot of you guys may be asking yourself, didn't McDonald's Pizza already have an explanation for its discontinuation? Yes. Yes, they did. Let me tell you about that. In the summer of 1987, McDonald's corporate began testing the viability of pizza as an addition to their menu to compete with their competitor, Pizza Hut, who was taking up a large portion of the dinner market. By 1989, the pizza industry had a market value of around $21 billion, with an annual growth rate of 10%. So McDonald's began to test the pizza markets of Charleston and Salt Lake City, offering two types of pizza, pepperoni and sausage, which is known as deluxe. This sold for about $1.30. There was also a 3-cheese blend of mozzarella, provolone, and parmesan for about $1.15. Pizza! McDonald's pizza! McDonald's pizza! McDonald's pizza! These oval-shaped personal pizzas were sold at 45 McDonald's outlets throughout Utah, Wyoming, and Nevada. This was deemed a success, and so McDonald's began to later expand to both US and the Canadian market, where specifically the Canadian market was where the pizza was met with more success. In Canada, in addition to the two original types, Canadian customers had the option of ordering a ham and pineapple pizza as well. So for many years, McDonald's began to put effort into researching, designing, and developing their own custom ovens that had a target baking time of around 5 minutes, using superheated air.
Can I have your attention, please? This is like no other oven you've ever seen before.
To accommodate this special oven, some stores required remodels, including enlarging the drive-thru window. Additionally, a warming bin also had to be included, so if there wasn't space, you had to make it happen. Throughout the 80s, McDonald's would test various styles of pizza. However, Brian makes it clear that McDonald's pizza is not McPizza. They're not the same thing. So McDonald's pizza was available in two sizes, the 6-inch personal and the 14-inch family. The family size costed around $5.80 at the time. It was made of enriched wheat flour dough with an herb-rich sauce and cheese. Pretty simple. The McPizza, on the other hand, was a brief menu item similar to that of a Hot Pocket. In 1988, McDonald's experienced an increase in sales of 12%, with the net income also rising by 18%. Despite this, it was unclear if McDonald's pizza was the reason for this. And in addition, the menu item drew heat from their competitor Pizza Hut, who ran a smear campaign labeling McDonald's pizza dough as McFrozen. This is ironic considering Pizza Hut distributes their pizza dough off-site and it arrives somewhat frozen at the store, but I digress. Why did McDonald's stop serving pizza? McDonald's pizza was initially well received, however there was several issues that hindered its success. Franchises disliked the costly renovation that they had to make in order to serve pizza. The waiting time for the pizzas was twice as long as expected, with the average family of 4 having to pay about $15 in 1989 money and waiting about 11 minutes to receive their pizza. At the peak of its popularity, about 2,000 McDonald's locations in America once sold pizza. However, by the mid-1990s, this number had dwindled dramatically to only 200 locations. Many of these locations were situated in Walmart stores. By the end of the 90s, nearly all McDonald's locations in America stopped serving pizza, with the exception for 3 locations. And this is where Brian comes in. Brian has a theory that McDonald's discontinuing their pizza is not just a false claim, but a deliberate attempt to take away a beloved menu item. McDonald's Canada stated that the pizza, quote-unquote, took too long to make.
I believe this excuse is tantamount to hogwash. It stretches credulity to the breaking point to think that McDonald's would not have planned for the longer cooking time when developing McDonald's pizza in the first place. Indeed, my extensive research has determined that McDonald's spent extensive resources developing revolutionary pizza ovens for the express purpose of cooking pizzas in record time.
Brian disputes this and calls up Little Caesars to investigate.
This is Amanda. What can I get for you?
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson, and I'm an investigative journalist looking into pizza operations.
I don't have a whole lot of answers. I'm just an assistant manager. The GM knows all the paperwork stuff.
Oh, this isn't about paperwork. This is just about your day-to-day operations making pizza.
Okay.
How long does it take to make one of your pizzas?
From start to finish or prep time and everything?
From start to finish.
Let's see, about, in total, about 8 minutes.
Okay. And when a customer orders a pizza, how long does it take for them to receive the pizza?
Well, if it's one of our hot and ready items, they get it immediately. If it's a specialty item, it can take anywhere between 5 minutes to 10 to 12 minutes.
So a regular pepperoni pizza is a hot and ready item that's available immediately?
Yes.
Okay. And do you think that this is a reasonable operation for any fast food establishment? For example, if McDonald's wanted to start serving pizza and wanted to have it available immediately for their customers, is there any reason why they wouldn't be able to do that?
No.
Okay. Thank you for your candor.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
The Little Caesars manager tells Brian that their pizzas take only 8 minutes to make, and this is a standard time for all pizza fast food restaurants, which means that also includes McDonald's. Brian's journey to uncover the truth led him to visit one of the last remaining McDonald's locations that still served pizza, and that was in Pomeroy, Ohio. Pomeroy, Ohio is a small hamlet with a population of around 1,800. Located on the coast of West Virginia, where its sister branch is also located, this area has very little going on. Program 4, Brian attempted to contact the franchise owner, Greg Mills, but was only able to get in touch with an employee at the Pomeroy location.
Hello?
Hi, may I speak to Greg Mills?
I'm sorry, he's out of town and he won't be back for about another week. Can I take a message?
I was just trying to get some information about why he serves pizza at his McDonald's and other McDonald's don't serve pizza.
Brian felt that the fact that the location had to constantly fight to keep pizza on the menu was rather sus.
We fight every year to keep it. We used to serve pizza in our McDonald's, in all of them, and then they gradually just took them away. But these 2 particular McDonald's that we have does real well with their pizza sales and stuff, and that's why he's kept it.
Do you know why McDonald's as a corporation is so against selling pizza in their restaurants anymore?
I don't have a clue.
And added to his belief that the discontinuation was not a simple matter of prep time. And after learning of pizza being the branch's top seller, Brian knew he needed to take his investigation further. And he did this by introducing a crowdfunding campaign to try the pizza for himself.
My name is Brian Thompson, and I'm on top of a parking garage in Burbank, California. Listeners know I have left no phone undialed, no email untyped, and no Reddit forum unlurked in my quest to discover why McDonald's stopped serving pizza at almost all of their restaurants in the mid to late 1990s. Now it's time to take my investigation to the next level. One heroic McDonald's franchise owner in Pomeroy, Ohio, on the border of Ohio and West Virginia, has chosen to fight company policy by continuing to serve McDonald's pizza in both family and personal sizes. With your help, I intend to go to Pomeroy, Ohio, try McDonald's pizza for myself, and report back to you.
He would then dedicate a few episodes scouting the area for a potential place to stay. Program 19, Brian contacted the only hotel in the area, the Meigs Motel, which led him on a little bit of a side investigation. Brian discovered that in 2013, a guest who was an alleged sex predator and meth addict was found dead in the hotel. 3 would end up being charged with the murder. Skeptical about walking into a trap, Brian reached out to the Ohio Daily Sentinel to inquire about the connection between the Meigs Motel murder and McDonald's pizza.
Have you noticed any strange goings-on around that motel or around the McDonald's that serves pizza in Pomeroy?
No, not that I'm aware of.
In my research into the pizza, I've just encountered strange occurrence after strange occurrence. According to the local McDonald's corporate does not like the fact that they serve pizza still. They have to fight to still serve pizza every year, which I find very unusual.
Program 26, Brian's Kickstarter campaign was successful, and he committed to his incentives by contacting a prayer hotline and asking for a thank you prayer for all the donors listed by name.
I'm trying to talk to someone who can help me with a thank you prayer.
I'm sorry, could help you with a what?
A thank you prayer?
A thank you prayer?
Yes, I have several people who donated to help me fund an investigation, and I was wondering if I could say a thank you prayer. Is that something that the man Jesus Christ could help me with?
The call was comical, and by the end of it, Brian had become a Christian.
I guess you're what do you say? What do you call it? An investigative?
I'm an investigative
reporter?
journalist. Yes, you could also say reporter.
You're an investigative journalist.
Yes.
Okay.
And my
And
investigations...
some people have contributed.
Program 31, Brian made the trip to Ohio and was finally able to try the authentic McDonald's recipe.
Do you remember when McDonald's served pizza?
No.
That's my producer, Agnes. The sun has yet to rise. We are waiting for a shuttle to pick us up from the Los Angeles International Airport parking lot. Once at the terminal, we will board a plane bound for Ohio, where McDonald's still serves pizza.
He ordered a family size and a personal cheese and a personal deluxe.
It's very cold outside. I would like to eat the pizza outside because this McDonald's is situated on the river. It's quite scenic behind us. When you're not looking at the actual town of Pomeroy and you're just looking at the river in the opposite direction, I would say it's almost beautiful.
Both of which were met with mixed reviews. See, his producer, Agnes, thought that the pizza was the worst she ever had. But Brian, though?
I am now holding a slice of pepperoni McDonald's pizza. I shall take a bite.
Is this an emotional experience for you?
Yes, I am very emotional right now. McDonald's pizza's primary note is cheesiness. Only further study can reveal whether this was the predominant method of cheese distribution in the heyday of McDonald's pizza, but in Pomeroy, they place cheese both underneath and on top of the toppings. In the case of the pepperoni pizza I ordered, the effect is momentary confusion. Is this actually a cheese pizza, I wonder? Will my journey include an embarrassing rebuke of this magical McDonald's location's attention to detail?
He still found the pizza to be pretty good for the price.
But even still, this is the end of my investigation. In the absence of truth, I shall make do with the reality at hand. A reality where those of us who crave McDonald's pizza must put our money where our mouths would like to be and travel to the nether regions of the American Midwest to consume the manna we seek. Or, as in my case, we must put the money of generous donors where our mouths would like to be. That is, wrapped around a slice of McDonald's pizza. There is nobility in the difficult task, and honor in scarcity. Perhaps this is the natural order of McDonald's pizza.
It is said that nothing in this world is certain, save for death and taxes. But I would add one more item to that list: McDonald's pizza. Though it is now a distant memory, nothing save for a complete rewriting of our reality can change the fact that for a few short years, McDonald's pizza was available throughout North America. But nestled within this indisputable fact is a disputable question. Did McDonald's pizza's crust sport a healthy dusting of cornmeal?
Program 44, Brian tried to answer this question by contacting various cornmeal suppliers to see if they've ever sold their product to McDonald's during the pizza's heyday.
Cornmeal used in the 80s, is that right?
Correct. Do you remember when McDonald's used to serve pizza?
I don't. Mm-mm.
Really, no recollection at all?
Okay. No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Well, what I'm investigating is whether ConAgra supplied cornmeal for the pizza crust that McDonald's used when they were serving pizza in the late 80s to the mid-1990s.
Okay. Give me a second to put you on hold.
And he also received photographic evidence of the Pomeroy crust and called the location under an alias to inquire further information.
McDonald's Pomeroy, can I help you?
Hello, my name is Nigel Foghat, and I was passing through Pomeroy on holiday not too long ago, and I stopped by your pub and had a spot of pizza. And it was delicious, but I had a question about it. Do you use a cornmeal crust?
No.
You don't dust the crust with cornmeal at all?
No, we don't use cornmeal crust.
Do you mind my asking, have you ever used cornmeal on the crust of your pizza?
No.
The employee confirmed that the dusting was simply Parmesan?
It makes it like crumbly, like a dust on it.
I see.
Yeah, that was Parmesan cheese.
Oh, okay. So what you're serving now is not exactly the same as what McDonald's...
No, it's not exactly the same.
Are there any other differences?
No, not any more differences.
Oh, just the crust.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your candor.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Parmesan.
Prompting more questions about the authenticity of their pizza. Tensions rose after visiting the desolate hamlet of Pomeroy, Ohio. A few months after his visit, McDonald's corporate threw the hammer down, shutting down the Ohio and West Virginia branch for good. Well, at least their feature for authentic original McDonald's pizza. And this was a big deal too, because the town even had like a whole news article dedicated to this.
To the locals, this offense was tantamount to an insult on top of an injury. For not only are they forced to wake up every morning and remember they live in Pomeroy, Ohio, but now there are scant few options for those Pomeranians who suffer from one of the most common dietary disorders, being a picky eater.
We love the McPizza because I don't eat sandwiches, so that gave me something extra to eat.
What are you going to order tomorrow?
Probably just French fries and the tea. Probably just French fries and the tea. Probably just French fries and the tea.
Probably just French fries and the tea.
Which left Orlando to be the last known location of McDonald's to still serve pizza. However, the pizza at that specific McDonald's was left uncanon. During Brian's investigation, he discovered that the rather large, infamous Orlando McDonald's chain cooked its pizzas inside a brick oven. Naturally, that means that the Orlando pizza is not the same as authentic 1985 to early 1990s McDonald's pizza. So this lack of compliance on McDonald's part only added to the mystery and confusion surrounding the issue, and it seems that McDonald's corporate is being very secretive about their decisions. While McDonald's corporate has sort of always been that way, it is highly unlikely that McDonald's would provide proper training to their employees on a menu item that is over 30 years old, so it makes sense why people don't remember it. But by denying Brian's inquiry, McDonald's had inadvertently created its own conspiracy.
We have a lot in store tonight, including a trivia contest where one lucky McDonald's employee who answers my call could win $9 in cash. But first...
my name's Josh.
Hello, Josh. Do you have an experience with McDonald's pizza?
Yes, I do. My wife and I were taking a road trip down to Texas last week. and we decided to stop in Pomeroy for a slice of the famed McDonald's pizza. Like you mentioned earlier, I do not remember a cornmeal dust or anything like that, but suspect maybe that's just to keep McDonald's away from the location itself. The first thing we noticed was there was a sign on the door saying to please not take any photos or videos to respect the workers there.
That's
perhaps
very
these workers
interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I visited, that sign was not there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's not this renewed interest, that maybe McDonald's has started looking at them more closely, and there's something going on. They want to keep serving the pizza, but there's someone that's trying to keep them from turning into a national thing again, and what the reason is for that, I'm not sure.
Well, let's address the elephant in the room first. How did it taste?
Brian's creative character is dedicated to making content that stimulates and keeps the audience on their toes. He will often go on side investigations, blurring the line between fiction and reality, even going to the length of creating a whole new podcast page, as he did for Willow Talk.
Hello, this is Willow Talk, the program where we talk about Willow, a proud part of the Pizza at McDonald's network. I am Bolkakakya, Pizza at McDonald's social media intern. Let us talk about Willow, shall we? Okay.
A show where he talks about Willow. The Willow saga began on Program 37 when Brian engaged in self-care.
Recently, I visited my local public library so that I might read the World Book Encyclopedia entry for McDonald's Pizza. There was no such entry. But while conducting my investigation, the weight of my labors began to strain my spirits. I decided it was time to engage in what the Hospice for Dying Rodents where I volunteer calls self-care. So I went to the library's computerized card catalog and searched for some escapist fare to enjoy that evening at home. Naturally, my mind settled on the 1988 fantasy epic Willow.
Unfortunately, the copy that was available at the library had gone missing.
I checked out another fantasy film that happened to be in the W's. Entitled Warriors of Virtue, it concerns a young man who jumps into a sewer and is transported to a land where kangaroos know karate. But if I'm being honest, I could not pay attention. My mind kept returning to the missing Willow DVD. Before I left the library, I did my due diligence by tasking the reference librarian with scouring the premises. Perhaps I thought the DVD had simply been misshelved.
So Brian had to call the library to check the status of the DVD.
Referenced, may I help you?
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson, and I recently visited the library looking for a copy of the movie Willow on DVD, and it was discovered to be missing.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you ever filed a police report on the matter?
Well, I don't believe that's something we would do.
Why is that?
Well, when it's marked missing, then we actually look into finding it first. So, and if it's missing, we wouldn't have any idea who took it, so there's not really a police report to be filed.
I believe it may be a high-value item.
However, since the library didn't want to press charges, Brian knew he had to take the matter in his own hands. Brian's investigation continued on Program 58 when he read fake correspondence from director Ron Howard.
Indeed, what is journalism if not a form of storytelling? Is there any difference between my film The Paper and an article in a newspaper? I like to think that there isn't much of one. In conclusion, I believe we would be perfect collaborators on a project I'm currently developing. That project is called Willow 2. Please contact me at the enclosed telephone number so that we may discuss the future of our favorite little trickster. Best regards, the director, Ron Howard.
This led to contact with Lucasfilms, only for him to later learn that it was a scam orchestrated by ex-rival Monroe Boswell.
Good afternoon, Lucasfilm.
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson. I just received an email from the director Ron Howard asking me to contact him at this number about discussing a possible movie project.
That must have been a scam or some kind of a trick. That's not something that would happen.
What do you mean?
There's no way Mr. Howard would give you this number and say contact him because he's not available at this number.
I have his email address. Is there any way to confirm it?
No, sir. Letting you know that's not a real thing.
Is Lucasfilm working on a project called Willow 2?
No.
It's not in any active development?
No, sir.
I see. Well,
Sorry about that.
can you put me in touch with Mr. Howard?
I just told you that I couldn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Brian then used his podcast Willow Talk to brainstorm ideas for a potential Willow sequel. But the best in the saga has to be Program 93, when Brian had the chance to ask Ron Howard in person if he could read his Willow 2 script at a local Q&A.
But several weeks ago, an informant informed me of a possible opportunity to have my treatment for Willow 2 through the portal of time read by the one person who has the ability to turn the fruits of my imagination into the pie of reality. Ron Howard. The Arrow Theater, a revival movie house in the Los Angeles colony of Santa Monica, recently hosted a multi-night retrospective of the career of director Ron Howard. Friday and Saturday night featured screenings of such Howard-directed films as Apollo 13 and Cocoon. It was wise to schedule these lesser-loved movies on days where most people are otherwise occupied. But on Sunday, the day guaranteed to bring in the largest audience of well-rested churchgoers, they screened Willow on majestic 70mm film. What's more, director Ron Howard and screenwriter Bob Dolman were in attendance. What's most, they aid the audience's cues. Roughly 2 hours later, the lights undimmed, and director Ron Howard, screenwriter Bob Dolman, and moderator Drew McWeeny took the stage to A some cues. My training kicked in, and my hand immediately shot into the sky. This is what happened.
Hi, my name is Brian Thompson. I'm a journalist. I also dabble as a screenwriter, and I've written a treatment for Willow 2. It's just I didn't want to step on any toes, so that's why it's only a treatment. But I was just wondering if you might want to read it.
Well, there's something underway already.
Ron revealed that Willow 2 was already in the works, thus shattering Brian's opportunity to be the writer of Willow 2. The saga peaked with this news and the creation of the URL willow2.com, which was Brian's attempt to find funding for the movie.
All right, thank you all for listening to this transmission. This is the real Willow Talk, the show where we talk about Willow. Tex Thompson here, filling in for my grandson Brian, who says he's too busy to host. I guess he's also too busy to pick up the telephone every once in a blue moon and see how his old granddad's doing. Well, anyways, this has been the real Willow Talk, the show where we talk about Willow. It is brought to you by Pizza at McDonald's Productions, presenting Willow 2 through the portal of time in theaters worldwide very soon. That's kind of a vague timetable.
Hello and welcome to Willow Talk, the show where we talk about Willow, a proud part of the Pizza Plea Network. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. Longtime listeners of Willow Talk will note that the program has been plagued with issues from the outset. Originally, due to my busy schedule as CEO of a major audio entertainment company, I had to designate my former social media intern, Bol Kakakia, as temporary host. His hubris got the best of him, however, and after he left the former Pizza at McDonald's network, I was forced to briefly employ my grandfather, Tex Thompson, as host. But now that the Pizza at McDonald's network has been reborn as Pizza Plea, I am better able to manage my time, and thus can claim my rightful place at the helm of this program. If you are wondering what happened to my grandfather, Tex, then prepare yourself to wonder no longer. He passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82. With that housekeeping out of the way, we can begin with today's episode of Willow Talk, in which I begin reading the novelization of the film Willow.
While I cannot go through each and every one of Brian's most entertaining endeavors, there is one in particular that I always got to share with my friends. Program 41, aka the White House Incident. So I find that topics like religion and politics are typically handled well on Brian's behalf. He doesn't choose to directly insult or push any serious ideology, besides McDonald's pizza, of course, onto the listeners of the IJP. Instead, he chooses to handle these topics in a very subtle, non-malicious, satirical manner.
I was seeking an audience with the president. The president at the time was, what was his name? Something. Daniel something.
Brian's character mostly uses Socratic questioning when asking people about their thoughts on him, or anything else in that matter. Program 13 is a good example, when he asked people at McDonald's locations in Wisconsin, which was a battleground state, if they voted for him.
I'm your host, Brian Thompson. Let's call some McDonald's restaurants in the battleground state of Wisconsin and see if they have pizza.
Hello, McDonald's is not.
Hi, do you serve pizza?
Yes.
You do, sir?
Pepperoni and cheese, jalapenos. What do you like?
Hello? I think that was a facetious answer.
Hello, McDonald's.
Hi, do you serve pizza?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. Did you vote for Trump?
McDonald's, how can I help you?
Hi, do you serve pizza?
I think you already know the answer to that question. You know that doing a prank call is a misdemeanor and a fine up to $135?
So the answer is you don't serve pizza?
Very good. Is there something McDonald's related I can help you with?
Sure. Did you vote for Trump?
That's a political question. I don't answer that. I'm working at McDonald's right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Despite that, though, Brian's character still believes that Trump is an important ally due to his love for McDonald's and possibly their pizza, which gave him means to want to talk to Trump on using his executive power to bring the pizza back.
Recently, I ended my investigation into which sinister agent stole my local public library's DVD copy of the film Willow, after a psychic remote viewing session led me to believe my true calling is getting to the bottom of whatever happened to pizza at McDonald's.
By using idiograms, to looking into the controversial firing of James Comey, a former American lawyer and director of the FBI. Comey was appointed by President Obama in 2013 and served until his dismissal in 2017.
But as soon as I made up my mind to refocus my efforts on solving this enduring mystery, I learned that Donald Trump, acting president of the United States, had fired FBI Director James Comey, reportedly in an effort to obstruct the FBI's investigation into possible collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and the Russian government. This seemed like too important an investigation to leave unaided by my well-earned sleuthing expertise. After all, to quote the films Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Teen Wolf, with great power, you should be responsible.
And as a journalist, Brian could not stand for this to happen, and he needed to take action. His character felt an obligation to get to the bottom of this dilemma by asking the man in charge himself. Despite this, Brian's goal was more oriented towards having Trump pressure McDonald's on bringing back their pizza.
I googled this lesser-known White House, and what I discovered both shocked and delighted me. Not only does Mr. Trump call this building home while vacationing away from Florida, but admission there is also free. This is due to a federal law granting free admission to all U.S. monuments, as many are too boring to charge a fee. When I approached the building, I was surprised to find that no one was allowed to simply knock on the front door, like a regular home. Instead, tall metal gates encircled the property from such a great distance that I had trouble even so much as peeping through a bedroom window.
So while in Washington, D.C., on a personal matter, Brian took the liberty to approach a Secret Service agent and asked if he could speak to Mr. Trump himself.
So, I approached a kind-faced Secret Service agent posted outside. My name is Brian Thompson. I'm an investigative journalist, and I was wondering if it's possible for me to go inside and speak with Mr. Trump.
Unless you have an appointment, you can't go inside the complex.
Oh, really? Has anyone mentioned my name or a show called Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's to you?
I'm really not sure, to be honest. We do have a one-voice policy with media, so I'm not permitted to really say anything, to be honest with you.
Well, can I ask you, do you remember when McDonald's used to serve pizza? You're shrugging. You don't recall that at all?
Personally, no.
You can't direct me to someone who might be able to tell me how to get into the White House today to talk to Mr. Trump?
One agent had completely no idea what Brian was doing, leading to the arrival of the supervisor, who was not happy about this.
Yeah, sure, give me one moment.
Okay, thank you.
In stark contrast to the agent with whom I originally established a rapport, the second agent who approached wore such a dour expression that I could easily imagine he just received the news that McDonald's no longer serves pizza.
Hi, my name is Brian Thompson. I'm an investigative journalist, and I was wondering if I might be able to go inside the White House and speak with Mr. Trump today.
You have an appointment?
I don't, but I'm a journalist.
You have an appointment?
I don't, but I'm a journalist.
I don't care who you are. Do you have an appointment?
I don't, but I'm a journalist. Is he not speaking?
He's not here.
Journalist? What do you mean he's not here?
If you have any questions, you can call our headquarters. And that's for the public information officer.
Do you know where he is?
What did I tell you?
I can call your headquarters?
That's correct.
What's the number for that?
You can Google it.
What should I Google?
As an audio recording, the pauses that follow might be mistaken for calm moments of respite spent enjoying the ambient sounds of the nation's bustling capital. But in reality, they punctuated a tense standoff wherein this nameless Secret Service agent glared directly into my eyes through the thin plastic barrier of his sport shades.
Brian would find himself surrounded by agents, resulting in him to depart the scene in order to evacuate and evade an arrest. Following this, Brian met up with a pamphleteer who's also a conspiracy theorist.
Because they did it.
Just going back to the beginning, though, the premise of your pamphlet is that Mary Todd Lincoln actually assassinated Abraham Lincoln. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And why do you believe that?
Dr. Leal was there. He saw it.
I'm also investigating Donald Trump's ties to the government of Russia. Do you know anything about that?
I love Russia. Russia's fantastic. Do you know, let me tell you what happened real quickly. World War I started in August 19th.
The man gave him a lecture of loving Russia, and also that Jesus' last name was Ben David.
I am a devout Christian, but I have not read any of the Bible yet.
What is that Savior's name? What is the Messiah's name?
Are you speaking of Jesus Christ, son of Mary with no last name? There is no Jesus Christ.
Jesus is a Latin name. What Jewish mother would give her son a Latin name under Roman occupation?
So you're saying Mary was Jewish?
Her name was Miriam. She was Jewish. He was king of the Jews.
Well, that narrows down last names, I guess.
His name was Joshua.
Look, what was his last name? Do you know?
Joshua Ben David. He was the son of David. Joshua Ben David.
Joshua Ben David. So Mary's last name was Ben David?
Yeah, see.
And from that moment on, Brian would always mention Jesus by his full name, that being Jesus Ben David. This episode is considered to be one of my favorites. The bravery for the absolute balls for Brian to even consider talking to Secret Service members is just immeasurable.
Impossible to convey via audio, but I was slowly being surrounded by more and more and more security guards. By the time the conversation ended, I was completely encircled by a very scary-looking gentleman in dark sunglasses with loopy wires coming out of their ears. So that was a little bit intimidating, but I figured I was relatively safe. It was bright daylight. There were many people around, and if they did anything, such as used excessive deadly force on me, then I'm sure I would have been avenged or even hopefully martyred.
Another one of Brian's adventures included his trip to Adak, Alaska. On program 137, Brian announced he learned about a McDonald's located on Adak Island, a deserted island in the Bering Sea that was once used by the U.S. Army during the Cold War.
Today, I would like to deliver a major announcement. My roommate here at the Young Men's Christian Association is a gentleman by the name of Skeeter Boyd. This is not the major announcement I would like to deliver, but it is a relevant detail. For Skeeter Boyd is a veteran of the United States Army. Thankfully, he did not experience any combat situations, and thus cannot relate any stories that my weak stomach may find too gross to handle. Instead, he was stationed at Adak Army Base in Adak, Alaska, throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Adak is currently the home of a long-abandoned McDonald's, perfectly preserved by the freezing temperatures of its Arctic climate.
Brian announced his plans to search for abandoned McDonald's pizza equipment and raised money to fly to Anchorage and then to Adak Island.
In the United States, it's the very tip of the Aleutian Island chain off the coast of Alaska. And to fly, I live in Los Angeles, and to fly from Los Angeles to Anchorage, you had to have a layover in Anchorage to get to Adak. That flight was relatively inexpensive. It's just a few $100s or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then the flight from Anchorage to Adak was about $1,200 just for that one flight. Which I recall correctly, I think was maybe 2 or 3 hour long flight, something like that.
Was it a packed flight or was it like half full?
It was very full because the plane only comes in twice a week on Adak, so you're stuck there for several days if you go. And many people there have multiple jobs. There was a woman on the plane who, at the gate in Anchorage, was trying to get people to buy her homemade jewelry, and then once we landed in Adak, she got off the plane. I saw her out the window. She got off the plane, walked out onto the tarmac, put on an orange vest, and then started directing the plane into the gate. She was an airport employee. And I would see this time and again while I was there. There was people that were on the plane who, at night, I would go to the one bar restaurant, and they would be, maybe working as a bartender. And then the next day, I would go to buy a snack at the one general store, and they would be working behind the counter. As far as I could tell, there were maybe 12 people who live on this island, and they do all of the jobs.
That's wild. I think you mentioned that in the documentary too, that there was the one guy who was in charge of, he was like basically a firefighter, a paramedic, and the police. It was like just one guy.
That's right. As it was explained to me, they have very little crime because there's nowhere for a criminal to run.
There, he met with an elder called Steve, who had been living on the island for several years, and documented the whole experience in a few episodes of the IJP.
I watched several videos on YouTube of people who've been here before I came, and there was one video series called Alaska Pickers or something like that.
Yes.
It was a group of men who were just going to every building and gathering up pallets and pallets of furniture.
They tore up our island. Alaskan Pickers did. Absolutely tore it. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad blood toward the Alaskan Pickers.
Very bad blood from Alaskan people here. Adak people. Adakians. These were the CB barracks here. CBs, are you familiar?
The whole Adak saga actually stretches to not just a few episodes of the IJP, but also a Q&A telethon.
The program was originally advertised to be held at the abandoned gymnasium near the abandoned racquetball courts in Adak. But at the last minute, there was a venue change from the abandoned gymnasium to the abandoned church, where I am recording from now. This is because the abandoned gymnasium was burned to the ground after it was discovered to be a cookhouse for a drug called methamphetamine.
A tour of Brian's living arrangements, and a tour around the abandoned McDonald's in video form.
I will now give you a tour of my accommodations here on Adak Island. This is my street. It is very quiet because no one lives here. Let's go inside, shall we? This is the mud room. It is the room designed to house mud. This is the bathroom. There is a sink and a toilet. I will now turn off the lights. You're welcome, Steve. Continuing into the kitchen. you see some incredible accommodations. A microwave machine cooking device, a toaster machine cooking device, a coffee machine cooking device, many knives, paper towels, etc. Here you see one of the second floor bathrooms. This one has a tub in case I need to soak myself. This is one of 2 guest rooms. This contains 2 beds. Unfortunately, each one is only the size of a single twin, and I am but one person.
Very expensive on Adak. It's actually cheaper for them to 2 or 3 times a year just fly to Anchorage with giant bins, empty bins, and go to Costco and buy all of their groceries and fill the bins up and then check the bins as checked luggage and fly them back to Adak. There were many people who did that on the flight that I was on.
Brian had one goal: to learn about that McDonald's that was once abandoned by the United States.
Hello. I am standing at the abandoned McDonald's on the island of Adak in Alaska, and I will give you a brief tour. This is the abandoned drive-through menu at the abandoned McDonald's on the mostly abandoned island of Adak in Alaska. I have thoroughly examined it, and there is no evidence of McDonald's pizza. At least there is no entry for McDonald's pizza. As you can see, towards the top left of the menu, there are some blacked out spots. Possibly that is where McDonald's pizza once resided. Regardless, there is still an advertisement for Happy Meal toys related to the animated series Bobby's World, written, created, and loosely based on the childhood life of Mr. Howard Mandel, the celebrity mascot and spokesperson for McDonald's pizza. Why some nefarious force would remove McDonald's pizza from the menu itself but leave this tantalizing clue as to McDonald's former relationship with pizza is anyone's guess. But the fact remains that so far, my efforts at locating any evidence as to why McDonald's stopped serving pizza have come up short.
It's in a strange. It actually was. I was expecting it to be much colder than it was. It was rather comfortable. It's in some sort of strange jet stream or low pressure or high pressure system. I'm not a meteorologist, but I do know that they very rarely get extreme cold. It's always sort of at a base level of a little bit cold enough for snow to stick. But I've spent. I was able to accomplish most everything I was able to accomplish in my investigation within a day or two, but I was stuck there for several days waiting for the plane to arrive. So I had quite a bit of time to explore.
I just finished recording Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's live from Adak, Alaska, here in this abandoned church. And I thought I would take the opportunity to let you in on one of my daily rituals. Jesus Ben David, hear my plea. Help me investigate McDonald's pizza more thoroughly. I bow to you.
After searching the island with Steve, Brian returned home fruitless and disappointed, until he got a call from Larry, who happens to own a truck.
One of my informants, a gentleman named Larry, who lives on Adak Island in Alaska, has some kind of proprietary involvement with said island's abandoned McDonald's location, and, most importantly, owns a truck, sent me the following electronic correspondence.
So this was when Brian learned about the ovens being manufactured for McDonald's by Garland Commercial Industries, located in Pennsylvania. On program 143, Brian got in touch with a service tech from the company who had repaired the McDonald's ovens in the past.
We've never had an oven in McDonald's Lincoln.
What kind of information do you have?
I have an operation manual for this oven, or what appears to be, or what purports to be an operation manual for the oven. It has several product numbers. I don't know if those might be useful to you.
What's the product numbers? It's not Lincoln, but let me do some detective work.
Oh, I very much appreciate that. Authenticity of this operations manual, because I have been burned in the past with forgeries, and so I wanted to make sure that Garland did manufacture this oven, but it appears they did.
They did. Yes, they did. Yes.
Okay, do you have any idea?
It's an old deck oven. It's a McDonald's.
According to the operations manual, it was manufactured exclusively for McDonald's, and the manual itself bears the McDonald's
Yes, it was.
logo.
And it was 10 to 15 years ago. They were only in McDonald's for roughly 2 to 3 years because of the difficulty to program them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How were they difficult to program?
They're extremely difficult to program. I don't even think there's program manuals for it. And if you call Garland Technical Support, they will not tell you how to program them because all that information is proprietary.
By the time of the IJP, Brian had established himself as a creative storyteller with a remarkable ability to delve into multiple story arcs, pursue side investigations, and explore the unknown. He used various aliases to keep his identity hidden, and his will to uncover new information was quite remarkable. His podcast was captivating and filled with unexpected calls to people who could help him build his narrative. Brian is a character who's calm and polite in nature, but the pressures of being a journalist can sometimes cause him to show paranoia or a refusal to accept reality.
Just a quick note to any would-be assassins. I took this particular journey at a different time than normal. So, if you think you can calculate when I normally travel to work based on the position of the sun in this film, you might want to think again.
He sees himself as the intrepid seeker of truth, and is always on the hunt for the answers to the mystery of McDonald's pizza. So what does that mean? Being an intrepid seeker of truth means having the courage and commitment to seek out knowledge and understanding even in the face of adversity. And that's Brian Thompson's character in a nutshell. But what about Brian Thompson, the creator? Who really is Brian Thompson? Despite my best efforts to extract information from Brian Thompson in the interview, I was met with a wall of silence when I asked about his true identity. However, after doing some investigative journalism of my own, I was able to obtain said confidential information from an undisclosed source. While sitting on the toilet with a phone during a meeting, he stated, "I started doing stand-up in characters when I was in college in Louisiana. When I came to LA, I continued doing stand-up for a little while, then took sketch writing classes at the UCB Training Center. Through those, I earned a spot as a writer for a house sketch team at the UCB Theater. They call them mod teams, as opposed to herald teams, which are for improv. While writing for sketch teams there, I also wrote and performed in lots of other shows, both scripted and improvised. I don't consider myself an improviser though. I'm much more of a comedy writer who sometimes acts." Brian went to the University of New Orleans and ultimately graduated from the University of Louisiana at Monroe. He started off as a film major, but ended up getting a bachelor's in English with a focus on creative writing. Brian was offered a decent production job for a nonprofit in LA. It was a positive change of pace for Brian. When the challenge of his job turning sour hit him, he needed to recover and grow. While pacing back and forth in his room, he panted, "When my job fell apart, I took the opportunity to start taking sketch writing classes at UCB, and most of my comedy stuff since then sort of grew out of that. It's definitely true that to have any success in the traditional entertainment industry, you have to move to New York or LA. People would disagree, but I think for writing in particular, you kinda have to be in LA. Even people who write on shows that are produced in New York often get hired out of LA. Brian's work with UCB led him to a spot on 2 house sketch teams, the Royal Bermuda Whiskey Club and The Bus. The way the teams worked, there were 6 teams of 6 writers and 6 actors on each. Everyone on the team was chosen by a selective committee from the theater after several rounds of auditions. While disguising myself as a disability representative, Brian stated, at the end of the year, some teams would get picked to do another year, and some would get cut to make room for new teams. There was briefly a TV show on the CISO streaming service called the UCB Show, and a sketch I wrote was filmed for one of the episodes. Just checked, and it looks like it's available on Prime Video. Mine is Season 1, Episode 6, Who's Getting Fingered?
Hey, nice one, my friend.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the planetarium's such a great place to think.
Before the conundrum of whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's, Brian had a desire to write for television, which is still under his radar. He has experience writing prose fiction. Brian is not money-oriented. Working on the house team at UCB was time-consuming, difficult, and arguably not worth the money. But it led to Brian meeting talented people, and it helped him grow his comedic craft. Brian's experience doing stand-up in the swamps of Monroe, Louisiana, and working on long, waterless hours doing sketch comedy really contributed to Brian's work on Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. And it makes me wonder if Brian ever experienced stage fright in his life. So naturally, I dressed up as a homeless man and asked him, where he stated, I don't get stage fright at all anymore. My entire childhood and teenage years, I was very introverted and nervous in front of the crowds. But one day in college, I went to a guy I knew who managed a coffee shop with some performance space and asked if I could have an hour one night to do a comedy show. Don't know what came over me at the time, but after that, I really rarely went more than a few weeks without doing some kind of public performance. Now I'm really comfortable on stage. In fact, since the pandemic, I haven't done anything live in a long time and I really miss it. I also found out he didn't have any change.
Oh, it's the apples.
So for this next chapter, I want to go into the comedy styles of Brian Thompson. Just to remind you guys that this is just me researching stuff on Wikipedia, and I got no real-world experience on this knowledge, so take it with a grain of salt if you will, but I put some work into it. I think you guys might like it, you know. You should still watch it. Abstract art is a personal experience offering viewers the opportunity to interpret the visual language used and find meaning or enlightenment through the work. While abstract comedy isn't a thing, comedy has surrealism. Surreal comedy is a form of comedy which violates logic to produce humor that is both unexpected and clever. Popular comedians such as Stephen Wright.
I had the photograph on my license taken out of focus on purpose. So when the police do stop me, they go. Here, you can go.
Emo Phillips, Sam Kinison, and Mitch Hedberg, along with TV shows such as Mr. Show, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and of course anything that aired on Adult Swim, all demonstrate the popularity of surreal humor. Brian Thompson is a great example of this, using a deadpan delivery and illogical behavior to build up expectations and knock them right back down.
This pizza is so good, Mr. McDonald's. I hope it will never disappear.
Me too.
Will you file paperwork to be my legal father?
Similarly, this style of comedy can be known as a farce, which uses exaggeration, ridiculousness, and mockery of real-life interactions. However, in some regards, a farce can be seen as one-dimensional, being defined as a type of low comedy, and low comedy at times can be used as an insult in a way. It's like defining shows like Family Guy as such due to its vulgarity and absurdity that doesn't typically aim for social criticism, but rather means to just be entertaining. Program 134 is considered to be a farce. It features Brian on life support.
Welcome to our special presentation, The Brief Goodbye, a Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's Farewell, a proud part of Panoply Media. I'm your host, the soon-to-be deceased Brian Thompson.
While lying on his deathbed, fans call in to say their regards on Brian.
I wrote a poem for this occasion. Today I realized what's at stake. No more McDonald's pizza upon my plate.
Came to me recap everything that you've gone through and has really helped our marriage. So I want to thank you for that as well. And take care. Tell Jesus Ben David that I said hello.
Brian, sorry for calling it a podcast. It's an IJP. My sincere apologies.
until Brian finally made a call to a priest. Brian began to ask questions until finally dying on the line.
Disconnected. My situation is that I am terminally ill. I will be passing away very soon, and I was just calling to get some spiritual advice on what I can expect when I get to heaven as far as housing is concerned. Now, I was under the impression that I'm able to receive a house, but I have very particular security needs, and the person I was talking with before said that I'm experiencing a tingling sensation. I apologize.
Okay, I'm listening to you. Hello?
The situation Brian was in was a ludicrously improbable ordeal that was simply meant to create laughter, and it's also an example how farcical humor is considered to be funny in its simplicity. Comedy doesn't need to have complex social commentary to be funny, which is why low comedy is considered to be so. Additionally, we have to remember that what someone defines as comedy is subjective, much like any other art form. So what someone sees as farcical humor depends on what they perceive as absurd. So going back to Brian. Brian is an individual who is not afraid to make an ass out of himself. This is proven on his Instagram videos.
Does anybody here remember when McDonald's served pizza?
Another genre of comedy I like to talk about would be cringe comedy. The Ringer did a rather interesting article on this topic, stating that cringe comedy relies on the observer's sense of vicarious embarrassment and connecting to someone's predicament enough to feel on their behalf, almost in a way where the viewer is sharing that awkward moment. In addition, research has found that vicarious embarrassment activates the same parts of the brain associated with seeing others in physical distress, but not in the same way one would consider as schadenfreude, mentioning that cringe comedy deprives its comedy from relation and not suffering. Cringe comedy can be interpreted in two known ways: empathetic or contemptuous. He in the past has had moments of approaching random people in public asking their views on McDonald's pizza, which evidently has moments and feelings of cringe. But whether that's contemptuous or empathetic is dependent on your personality. In addition, there's a lot of overlap with cringe comedy and other genres of comedy. Briefly, satire is about human mocking human weakness and aspects of society. There's an element of criticism in satire that can add an allegory to your content. Brian Thompson's character has several moments mocking human behavior, including in programs where he does the missing pen gag. When once given a number to write down, Brian begins scouring around his car for a writing utensil, during which we hear him crackling paper and making disappointed mumbling.
For the low price of $5, or the higher price of whatever customers would like to pay over $5, you can gain access to a high-quality, advertising-free edition of my original Expedition to Alaska special. All of this and more can be yours if you visit pizza@mcdonalds.bandcamp.com and pay the requisite amount of money. In the meantime, I have decided to take it upon myself to ensure that this groundbreaking package will be safely archived for future generations.
Welcome to the Library of Congress. So what I can do is to refer your call right now to our Recorded Sound Research Center, and then you can talk to them about the possibility of having your work added to the library's collections.
Okay, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Make sense to you?
Yes.
Sure. And if you have a second, let me give you their number just in case they don't pick up or the transfer gets disconnected. I can give you the number for the Recorded Sound Research Center, too.
Oh, certainly. Hold
on. Let me know when you're ready.
Just one moment. Let me look for a pen.
Okay.
I apologize. I think my pen may have been stolen, but you can just tell me the number and maybe I can remember.
I'll just transfer your question right there.
The program is a combination of various comedic styles with an emphasis on prank calls. While the calls he makes are real, the narrative within Thompson and his character exists in a fictional mindset. Brian is willing to blissfully listen to whoever he contacts, almost like the viewer is experiencing a slice of life vibe from the various establishments he's talking to. Take, for example, the Quest to Destress trilogy.
Welcome to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, the investigative journalism program, or IJP, where I ask the question, whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? I'm your host, Brian Thompson. In light of my recent health setbacks, I have decided to declare war on stress.
Following his whole cornmeal dilemma, Brian's stress levels were off the charts.
As you know, my investigation has been met with frustration after frustration. Sometimes it seems as if I'm no closer to discovering the truth about what happened to pizza at McDonald's than I was at the onset of this endeavor oh so many months ago. Intellectually, I know this is silly. A tremendous amount of progress has been made. But the mind and the spirit are not always in agreement, as taught in my favorite religious text, a book called Bible. And listeners, my spirit is tired. That's why I contacted a company that offers spiritual retreats in a remote desert town. I hoped that they could help me de-stress and refocus on my important work.
The retreat features a getaway all the way out into the middle of nowhere that even includes the consumption of psychedelics under a shaman.
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson. I'm a journalist, and recently I've been conducting an investigation that's caused me quite a bit of stress. I was wondering if you could help me with any sort of retreat or spa destination that might be able to relieve some of the stress.
Sure, we can help you with that.
Thank you.
I really don't eat at McDonald's.
Oh, really? Why is
I
that?
have to be starving before I did.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Because I really like to go for healthy food, and I generally don't go to fast food chains. I go for healthy, organic, fresh food.
I see. Well, different strokes for different people, I suppose.
Yeah, so we always customize the retreat according to your situation. So we spent some time just talking with you about what's going on, where you're at right now, what you...
Brian was on the line for over 30 minutes. As the viewer learns about what the program and angel guides are all about. And after spending all that time on the line and given a price tag of about $2,394, Brian just simply hung up and felt successfully de-stressed. So while I can't really talk about every style of comedy Brian has dabbled in, the big one that deserves its own chapter is the idea of prank calling.
It is because I happened to be walking by this home not too very long ago, and a gentleman stepped out the front door who looked very much like Superman himself, the great actor Dean Cain. So I am hoping that... Oh, that was not the police.
Prank calls have been a staple in comedy for a very long time, dating back to the creation of phones. Two of the most famous prank callers in comedy are probably Jerry Lewis and the Bumbar Bastards, which was John Elmo and Jim Davidson. Jerry Lewis was known as the king of comedy, renowned for his phony phone calls in the 1950s and 60s.
If you recall, we had the party 2 years ago for the entire affair.
The which affair?
Your affair that you did for us 2 years ago. It was beautiful, Mr. Siegel. Just beautiful. You recall the Drake's cake and all of that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, Mr. Siegel, we're going to have this affair next Saturday night. Now, can you handle it? It's going to be for 40 people.
The coming Saturday night?
No, any Saturday you choose.
Uh-huh. Where would you like it?
Well, we would prefer to have a stand-up rather than a sit-down. Could we have it at the store?
Yeah.
Right. Now, what do you say Saturday? Is that all right?
Which Saturday?
You name it.
In 3 weeks around?
Fine, that'll be great.
When can you come and see me?
We can be there Saturday.
When can you come to see me?
I say we can come in Saturday.
Saturday, I'm closed.
All right, then we won't have the party.
Why not?
The Bumbar Bastards, on the other hand, became famous for their calls to a bar in Jersey City called the Tube Bar.
Hello.
Hello. Alan? No. Alcoholic.
Hello?
Alcoholic.
Alcoholic. Alcoholic. Don't know nobody by that name.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Which, I don't know if you guys know, this was actually the same call that inspired the Bart Simpson prank calls to Moe in The Simpsons. Another very popular prank call duo that I grew up with was the Jerky Boys, consisted of Johnny Brennan and Kamal Ahmed. These two went to great lengths to create believable characters in their Queens apartment.
And I think you're talking to the wrong party.
No, yeah, talk to my father.
What?
Uncle Freddie didn't die. He said Uncle Freddie died.
Uncle Freddie died? Oh my goodness! Martha, Uncle Freddie died. You're in trouble now. I'm gonna come there. I'm gonna break your fucking legs. You killed Uncle Freddie.
The Jerky Boys are great examples of character comedians, which is one of Brian's favorite styles of comedy. While Jerky Boys had Frank Rizzo, an abrasive, rude Italian-American, had Larry Truck, a humble, jovial truck driver who had a passion for his truck and McDonald's pizza.
Thanks for calling ZipRecruiters. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Larry Truck, and I'm calling to see if y'all might help me recruit someone.
What do you need to recruit for?
Well, I'm a truck driver, and the other day my wheels got stolen off my truck, and I need to investigate who done it. So I'm looking for an investigator to help me with that.
An investigator to help you figure out how the wheel fell off the truck?
Well, I don't think they fell off. I don't know if you ever seen a truck, but it's pretty hard to get them wheels off. You got to do it with a lot of intention.
However, despite my research, neither of these sources were direct inspiration to the IJP. Brian did mention to me that although he is aware of the likes of Jerry Lewis and the Jerky Boys, his inspiration was more of the following, starting with Phil Hendry. He was born in 1952 and started his radio career in the 70s, working as a disc jockey and a news reporter. And in the 1990s, he developed the format for The Phil Hendry Show. The Phil Hendry Show was a comedic talk radio show hosted by Phil that was broadcast from the late 1990s to the early 2010s. The show would be known for a unique format, which involved Hendry playing multiple characters in comedic interviews and sketches. The show was popular for its mix of humor, satire, and social commentary, and was widely regarded as one of the most innovative and entertaining programs in the talk radio genre.
What do you mean? What, you're walking around here, you're passing out, you're talking about a guy becoming a jar of preservatives, you're talking about an initiate, you just got this guy put a catheter up your wiener, excuse my language.
For God's sake, Phil. All right, I tell you what, let's take a break.
Well, he did. He's right, he's speaking the truth. But why won't you come to one of our lectures and you can learn that you do not need to be catheterized, you do not need to be leveled by the overlords, you can move and groove up through the various levels of enlightenment until finally you are an overlord and you have become projectile.
So much like Brian, Phil Hendry is a character comedian. The Phil Hendry Show was known for its use of character voices, with Hendry playing a wide range of personalities in humorous interviews and plenty of sketches. The show tackled a variety of topics, from politics and current events to pop culture and the absurd. Hendry's character often had distinct personalities and viewpoints, and the interactions between them often resulted in humorous and sometimes controversial debates.
Wait a minute. Now what? What is this? Yeah! Phil, I told you I hit a female basso profundo. A basso profundo. God. Yeah, but Margaret, you're freaking me out. That's kind of weird. I like to bring those exclamatory. Thank you very exclamatory moments to my music.
This is correct. First of all, congratulations on your literacy.
Will see the resemblance in Brian's character. It's also not surprising to admit that Brian was inspired by the likes of Tim and Eric. Particularly, he mentions On the Cinema at the Cinema, the web series that featured Tim Heidecker and
our second film today is Dark Skies with Kerry Russell, Dakota Goyo, and Josh Hamilton. Well, I had an emergency and was not able to finish seeing the Dark Skies, so I'll give it a 3 bags with a conditional that I'm assuming it deserves 4 or 5, and when I do see that, we'll update that on the website.
You could give it 5 half-full bags, because if you saw the whole thing as I did, you would give it 5 bags. 5 half-full bags, it sort of shows that it's incomplete, and that's what you want the viewers to understand.
All right. Well,
the show debuted in 2011 and has grown in popularity since. The two play exaggerated versions of themselves reviewing films and discussing a wide range of pop culture topics. The humor for the series is known for its unconventional and often absurd sense of dry humor, as well as an ongoing narrative that developed over the course of the series.
On the Cinema at the Cinema excels in showcasing the striking contrast between Tim and Greg's personalities, which frequently leads to entertaining conflicts in their reviews. The brilliance of this show lies in its ability to satirize not only the films they critique, but also the entire concept of a film review channel in general. The dry satire employed is both convincing in its parody representation and subtle humor, while allowing the audience to appreciate the wit without being overly obvious. Overall, the show stands as a fine example of how satire can cleverly entertain while delivering social commentary.
Hi everybody, this is Tim Heidecker on Cinema at the Cinema, and it's been a tough week. So I'm just going to turn it over to Greg. I can't do it today.
So the tumor.
Lastly, Jack Handey was cited as Brian's biggest comedic influence on comedy writing, citing him as almost like a kindred spirit. Jack Handey is an American humorist, writer, and comedian best known for his work on SNL, most notably being the Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. These were a reoccurring feature that happened during the 90s on Saturday Night Live. Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey consisted of short, absurdist one-liners that are meant to be humorous. The segments were often played over moody and atmospheric music, adding to their comedic effect.
Maybe in order to understand mankind, we have to look at the word itself, mankind. Basically, it's made up of two separate words, mank and eind. What do these words mean? It's a mystery, and that's why so is mankind.
In addition to his work on SNL, Jack Handey has written several books and has published articles in magazines and newspapers. He is widely regarded as one of the most influential humorists of his generation. So understandably, Brian doesn't consider him a crank caller or an improviser, but rather a comedic writer and character creator, and this becomes evident considering his various influences. Brian Thompson has taken these elements and executed them in a quite different way. Typically, prank calls are about getting a reaction immediately from the unexpected, with the usual goal to simply get a one-sided laugh, thus kind of a level of low comedy. However, Brian's goal is more objective-based and subtle in nature. He has a goal in mind and he honors the continuity of the show. His character has reasoning and curiosity towards the people he's talking to. This makes his character feel believable, yet just uninformed. And this leads to a lot of really interesting conversations, which is also a sub-podcast.
You want to pronounce?
Yes, how to pronounce one of the ingredients in this flavored cream cheese. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be pronounced salmon or salmen. It says smoked, and then I don't know if it's salmon or salmen.
Oh, salmon. Smoked salmon.
Salmon?
One of Brian Thompson's biggest inspirations was from the likes of Art Bell's Coast to Coast AM, a late-night radio talk show that aired between 1 to 5 a.m., 7 nights a week in the United States. Created by Art Bell himself in the 80s, the show covers a wide range of topics related to the paranormal, conspiracy theorist, and unexplained phenomenon. The show continues to have a large and devoted following and is broadcast on over 600 radio stations in the US and Canada. It's actually still broadcast at my local radio station at 2 a.m. Thompson's character serves almost as a tribute to Bell's legacy, inspiring others to embrace curiosity, creativity, and independent thinking. Brian expresses comedy that is dry enough to be believable, but not too dry to be unhumorous. Additionally, he has had several sub-podcasts throughout the series, such as Crust AM, which I'm sure you guys could guess what it could be a parody of.
When I am not hosting Crust AM, I work as an investigative journalist. Currently, I am investigating whatever happened to pizza at McDonald's, as chronicled on our sister program, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Occasionally, my investigation would lead me down avenues one could only describe as paranormal. For example, I learned of a possible connection between McDonald's pizza, the Egyptian Empire, and ancient extraterrestrials. I could not get to the bottom of this particular topic, as my trip to the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, to view an Egyptian artifact potentially displaying an image of pizza was thwarted by the fact that the museum was closed. When I arrived in Paris, I ran as fast as I could to the Louvre Museum. This turned out to be a mistake, as I was consulting a map at the same time. But the bard was right. Fortune will do you a favor if you are bold. And the long bread vendor with whom I collided pointed me in the direction of Egyptian artifacts displayed throughout the city. Though I did not finish the long bread, as it was too long, I did follow the direction of this vendor's pointing, and came upon a stone sphinx standing on a street corner.
Here I am at the famous Louvre Museum on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, ready to go inside and see if their permanent collection can offer any insight as to whether the ancient Egyptians had knowledge of pizza. Just check the instructions for how to gain access. Bienvenue, welcome. L'Anici est ferme le mardi. The museum is closed on Tuesdays. That is a shame.
I have also uncovered evidence that McDonald's pizza is a preferred food of the well-known cryptid called the Mothman. I attempted to lure the Mothman into captivity for questioning, but my plan to light a beacon fire near the Hollywood sign was stymied by certain legal and financial limitations.
Several residents of Chicago, Illinois, aka Hot Dog City, reported terrifying close encounters with a winged humanoid resembling the Mothman. As Chicago is home to the U.S. Pizza Museum's McDonald's Pizza exhibit, plus the company that supplied wholesale pizzas to McDonald's restaurants located inside Walmart stores, plus the corporate headquarters of McDonald's itself, plus the newspaper at which worked a reporter who died under mysterious circumstances after writing about McDonald's Pizza's possible return, I determined that McDonald's Pizza and the Mothman must be inextricably linked.
Los Angeles Park Rangers, may I help you?
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson, and I'm wondering who I need to ask to get permission to light a giant fire near the Hollywood sign?
You're not going to be able to ask anyone. That's not permitted in the park.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Why fires are not permitted in the park?
Yes.
It's a hazard. It's a danger.
Oh, I see. Well, the thing is I'm trying to attract an animal that's attracted to fire, and I believe that there are film productions around town that are allowed to create fires outside safely.
Let me transfer you to special events.
Okay, thank you.
Any permitting that's allowed, that's who you would talk to. Their number is 323-644.
Excuse me, one second, I'm writing this down. I'm sorry. 3, 2, 3.
Brian has done quite a few comical subplots. Like, for example, on Program 56, Brian contacted SquareSpace about getting a free website from them since he gave them ad time.
It has now been well over a week since I sent this correspondence, and still I have not received a reply from SquareSpace. Not sure what my options are at this point, I decided to seek legal advice.
When denied, he contacted LegalZoom for a potential lawsuit.
Thank you for calling LegalZoom. You have reached our legal plan membership department.
Thank you for calling LegalZoom. My name is Clayton. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Hello, my name is Brian Thompson.
Hello, Brian. How's your day going?
My day is going fairly well so far. I was calling for some legal advice.
Okay, sir. Well, how can we help you out? I'm not an attorney, though.
Well, I host an investigative journalism program, and my show does not have a website currently, but I have been doing pro bono advertisements for a company called SquareSpace. Are you familiar with SquareSpace?
I've heard of SquareSpace.
Yes, they make website easy, and I was hoping to get an easy website from them. I think they should be required to give me one for free because of the fact that I've done 2 pro bono advertisements for them. So I was wondering if I wanted to, if I could legally force them to give me a free website because of those advertisements that I've done.
On Program 109, he began doing ads with an amoral robot that would read off of the ads for this Ukraine company.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
You are trying to make a website, but it is too hard. You are ready to return your computer to the computer store and go back to being a person who is not online. But wait, SquareSpace will help you make a website, and the process will be easy enough that even you can do it. Now you have a website, and making it was easy.
Smiley face.
So for a while there, I did experiment with the idea of having an amoral robot read my ads so that I wouldn't be held morally or ethically or legally responsible for any consequences that might befall the people that partake of the services. As you probably understand, renting a artificial intelligence, robotic technology like that can be quite expensive. I sort of ran out of funds, I believe. So now I do read ads, but I try to at least keep them in the third person. There are so many of them, and I do have a few qualms about personally reading advertisements, or at least reading them in the first person, as if I'm the one who's tried the product and I'm personally recommending that you should try the product as well, because I cannot vouch for the safety of all of these products. I did hear once about an incident where someone they subscribed to a service called Loot Crate, and they received a box full of blood-covered razor blades. There's nothing that I cannot guarantee that if you subscribe, say, to HelloFresh, that your box of food that arrives hasn't been tampered with by an employee of the United States Postal Service, and perhaps your frozen chicken has been replaced with a vial of cyanide.
On program 135, following Brian's dramatic death, Brian would suddenly change personas as a more eccentric, animated white salesman.
Hey everybody, this is Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, the investigative journalism program, or, if you like, IJP, where I ask the question, hey, where'd the McDonald's pizza go? We're a proud part of Panoply Media, and I am, as always, your host, Brian Thompson. Now, I hear you out there. Well, I don't hear you, but, I hear you. You're like, what the heck, man? Aren't you dead? Well, if your heart stops, does it mean you died? I don't know about you, but personally, I believe the heart is the muscle in your body that pumps your blood through your veins. So if that puppy peters out, then I'd say you've suddenly got a lot in common with a dang doornail. And yeah, my heart stopped a little bit yesterday. I blacked out, my dead man switch automatically posted my show, and the next thing I know, I wake up 7 hours later with a lot of worried people sliding in my DMs. Oh man, I am sorry to worry everybody.
Introducing Season 3. However, this was due to Casper Mattresses implementing a chip into Brian's skull, thus making Season 3's announcement non-canon.
But in the throes of my brief madness, I ordered several Casper mattresses, which were delivered to my home on stilts in the Hollywood Hills. And while it is true that shipping was quick, easy, and free, and that the mattresses themselves arrived in boxes no bigger than a miniature refrigerator, the sheer number of them added up to a mass too heavy for my stilt home to handle. My home collapsed like a grease-logged pizza box and slid down the hill, fatally crushing several innocent coyotes and giving me quite a tumble indeed. I tumbled so hard, in fact, that when I came to an abrupt stop at the bottom of the hill, not far from the house of noted television actor Matthew Gray Gubler, my colleague from the program Criminal Minds, the inertial jolt dislodged an object from the mysterious gash in my head. In what I now believe to be the precise opposite of a mere coincidence, it was at this point that I regained my senses and realized that it was the height of insanity to risk my reputation and the structural integrity of my audience's homes by personally promoting Casper mattresses.
Brian has faced quite a few legal bumps during his tenure as an investigative journalist. Panoply Network was not the only company to send Brian a cease and desist. Brian's character in program 101 to 105 of his podcast received a mysterious pamphlet offering a sponsorship through ZipRecruiter. As a result, Brian changed the name of the podcast to include ZipRecruiter Presents in the title.
Am I supposed to be saying anything?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Continue.
Longtime listeners may have noticed that this program now has a slightly different title. While our first 100 episodes were published under the title Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, for the foreseeable future, our show will be called ZipRecruiter Presents Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Allow me to explain, but first, a word from our sponsor, ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter is now the exclusive sponsor of ZipRecruiter Presents Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, and their financial support could not have come at a more opportune time. After an unfortunate incident involving an infestation of garden slugs, I was forced out of my home and into a new home that had previously not been a home at all, but instead was simply my car. I was grateful to have a roof over my head, but I must admit I would have preferred it not be a moonroof. And though living in my car afforded me certain amenities, like enjoying breakfast in bed by ordering at a drive-thru, I was beginning to miss small conveniences, like being able to plug my electronic devices into something other than a cigarette lighter. Then, roughly 2 Tuesdays ago, something miraculous happened. I returned to my car/house after washing up in the Los Angeles River and discovered a handbill tucked under my windshield wiper. Have a podcast, it said? ZipRecruiter would like to give you money in exchange for promoting our service. Any podcast will do. Just say our name and get your check.
ZipRecruiter themselves eventually caught on to this and sent him a cease and desist letter, which Brian read and blamed on being a victim of a confidence man on Program 105.
No longer, and, as it turns out, never was sponsored by ZipRecruiter. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. As you may have just heard me mention, this program is not sponsored by ZipRecruiter, hence the reversion of our title back to its previous form. I could tell you a long and fairly uninteresting story summarizing how this situation came to be, but I will instead share with you an electronic correspondence I received from the ZipRecruiter Corporation's internal legal counsel. Dear Sir or Madam, since as early as 2010, ZipRecruiter Inc. has used federally registered trademarks in association with its online job board distribution services. We recently became aware of your Twitter page, located at https://twitter.com/pizza@mcd's, which improperly uses ZipRecruiter marks. There is substantial likelihood of customer confusion that your business is sponsored by or affiliated with ZipRecruiter for the following reasons. I. You imply sponsorship, affiliation, or endorsement by ZipRecruiter with your Twitter username, which begins with ZipRecruiter Presents. I. You imply sponsorship, affiliation, or endorsement by ZipRecruiter with your Twitter background picture, which improperly utilizes ZipRecruiter marks. And I. No such sponsorship, affiliation, or endorsement exists between you and ZipRecruiter.
Another notable example that a lot of people mention is Program 78, when he contacted a skywriting company to have a message promoting the fact that McDonald's pizza had once existed. Despite struggling to fit the message within the limited number of characters available, Thompson was committed to educating the youth about this fact. However, he ultimately had to remove this episode due to concerns about sharing trade secrets.
Well, actually, I just remembered there was one very good call, in fact, an entire episode that had to become a lost episode. It was the only time this has ever happened in the history of the show, where someone I called for the program contacted me almost immediately after the program was published and asked that I remove it because they did not realize that what they told me was going to be public information. I was looking to do some McDonald's pizza activism by hiring a skywriter to write a McDonald's pizza related message in the air. And so I called a skywriting company and we went through pricing, etc. And the person had a problem with that afterward. They said that they didn't have a problem with the episode being published or being recorded or anything like that. Their problem was that they discussed how much they charge for their services and they didn't want their competitors to have this information. I did think that this was rather a spurious excuse because I just called as a customer and asked how much it cost, which any of their competitors could also do literally any during business hours, any day of the week. But I respected their wishes and took it down. I definitely do not want to upset anybody. And thankfully, in the long history of the show, very few people I have spoken with have actually become upset or are angered by me. Well, there was one in particular, I would say by far the angriest person I've ever spoken with is a gentleman who runs a UFO reporting hotline. He has this UFO reporting hotline where you're supposed to call in case you've seen a UFO, because he's trying to gather as much UFO information as possible. And I thought perhaps maybe his research was going to be skewed by the fact that all he's hearing from are people who are seeing UFOs. And I myself have never seen a UFO. I thought that information would be useful to him. Sometimes people do not see them. So I called to report that I have not seen any UFOs. And he got very, very upset with me.
The purpose of the center is to collect hopefully accurate data on the UFO phenomenon, post it publicly, and let people know what is going on. It's almost parallel to what a newspaper does, to let people know what's going on.
I see.
Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense to me. I have called newspapers in the past and spoken to people who've given me information, though.
Well, what information are you seeking? If we have the information you're seeking, it is posted to our website.
Well, I was just wondering if you in particular have heard anything about contact with an extraterrestrial who allegedly goes by the name Enrid Cold.
I don't know the case, but we have 128,000 cases in our website. For me to be able to extract that data instantaneously is unlikely.
Oh, I see. So 128,000 cases. I'm sorry, let me write this down. 100.
Is this a prank call, sir?
And 28. No, sir, I'm trying to get some information about the number of reported UFO sightings. So if you say there were 100...
It's all on our website, sir. You don't have to take it from me. You can add it all up.
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah. The center began in October of 1974.
So 128,000 divided by 44.
No, sir. We started taking reports only when I took over. You have to divide by 25. Look, I'm unconvinced that this is not a prank call.
I don't know what to do to convince you otherwise.
Yeah. How many questions do you have? How can I help you?
Well, I'm asking my questions, but you seem to be very reluctant to answer them.
No, I'm unconvinced it's a serious call. We get calls like yours all the time, and they conclude with people chuckling at our gullibility. That's the problem, you see.
I can absolutely guarantee you that I will not be chuckling at anyone's gullibility or at anything else for that matter, unless, of course, I see something or hear something that I find funny. But I have not heard such a thing so far.
Directed you with regard to the question regarding the number of cases number of reports we post per year. I could just direct you to our homepage or our website, and you can see with your own eyes all the data that we have posted there.
I see. This is quite a circular. Am I up there? Is this a recording? Am I talking to a real person?
No.
No, I was just asking if I'm talking to an artificial intelligence. I know sometimes when you call to customer service lines, it's not an actual person. It's an artificial intelligence.
Sir, I'm under time pressure. If you have a question, one more question, I'd be happy to try to answer it. But then I'm going to have to move on. I was right in the middle of updating our website when you called. If you have any questions, you can send them via email. I'll try to answer them at my earliest convenience.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for your candor as far as that went.
Please understand our position. Between 90 and 98% of all the calls we receive now are prank calls from very rude, inconsiderate people. That's our problem.
I see. Well, okay. I'm not a child, punk or otherwise, and hopefully I've convinced you that I'm not chuckling either. So I appreciate your time again.
Understand you. Your phone is not very good, sir.
Well, that's slightly rude. Okay, well, thank you.
I understand. Thank you for your call.
Goodbye.
And then he called me back afterwards and yelled at me some more, but that did not make it onto the program. I believe he calls me every now and then, and I've just stopped picking up because I do not have time for that kind of abuse.
Despite this setback, Thompson remained dedicated to exploring unusual and thought-provoking ideas. This includes ventures such as board games, music, crowdfunding trips, which we already talked about, and of course writing his own book. But let's start with the music endeavors. In 2018, Brian kicked off his music career with the release of Songs in the Pizza Slice, a record inspired by his quest to uncover the truth about McDonald's pizza.
Willow, I love you not at the library. Willow, I love you, where is your DVD? Willow, I love you not at the library. I went to the DVD store, but they don't carry Willow anymore.
This parody album features MIDI melodies with Brian singing about McDonald's pizza, including such tracks as Thank You for Being Candid, a parody of the Golden Girls theme.
Thank you for being candid, informing me like you did. You didn't have to. I appreciate your honesty.
And Investigate This Matter, a parody of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror.
McDonald's pizza's gone, and no one knows why. Where did the pizza go? That's why I want you to know. I will investigate this matter. I won't leave any stones unturned.
The standout track on that album had to have been Bad Riddance, The Last Slice.
I left my fork at home. I'm eating with my hands. I have a feeling that tomorrow you'll be banned. I wish you'd stay. To go away would be a crime. The people love you, but they'll snuff you out in time. McDonald's has forsaken you. While you're here, it's nice. I hope that this is not the last slice.
Brian even created a music video for the song, incorporating his signature VHS aesthetic. Brian's music embodies the same satirical style he is known for. Perhaps one of the most unusual pieces in Brian's music catalog is his collaboration with Jandek on Ready for the Pizza.
Trophies of its restaurant. Would build up all of her triumphs in one drive-through. Her pizza stands.
A jarring avant-garde take on Brian's pizza insecurities, the song features a beat with a lack of pattern and dreary atmospheric keys, while Brian poetically shares his mind on McDonald's pizza.
Ready for the pizza. Ready for the pizza. Ready for the
Despite its unconventional sound, the emotional intensity of the song makes it a compelling addition to Brian's repertoire. Through my interactions with Brian, I mentioned his love for tabletop gaming, particularly the old Rugged Meeple, which reviews board games through a Christian perspective.
Hello and welcome to the old Rugged Meeple, where I play board games from a Christian perspective. I'm Brian Thompson, investigative journalist and board game enthusiast. Today I am going to be playing the game Dungeon Quest. Dare you face the Dragon's Challenge? Well, what is the Dragon's Challenge? The Dragon's Challenge is to make it all the way through this dungeon to the very center, where there is a treasure room. Hopefully I will be able to steal some treasure without provoking the dragon's wrath and having him make me forcibly pass away.
Though, as mentioned, the Christianity is all fictional, it's all part of the meme, and it's an integral part of his character. And so sometimes it can just sort of be seen as an afterthought.
Reference sheet from inside the rule book to help me with any sort of one-off specific rules that I do not remember off the top of my head. But before I do get started, I would like to discuss what is one of the main focuses of this channel, which is the glorification of Christ my Lord. And so Do I believe that Dungeon Quest glorifies Christ? Well, in a way, I believe that it does. For those of you who are familiar with the lore of Christ, you know that he lives in a city called Heaven, which is up in the clouds, and his enemy, a devil by the name of the Devil, lives in an underground city called Heck.
Brian does not promote all of his side projects, so finding them during my binge added to this experience. Brian's passion for tabletop gaming led to his own tabletop creation, the Pizza at McDonald's board game. The board game, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, is a 2 to 4 player game that pits the friends of truth against the enemies of truth in a battle over the mystery of why McDonald's stopped serving pizza. In order to eliminate all opposing characters, players must move their characters around the 2 regions of the board, that being the US and Canada.
In a 2-player game, each player will take on 2 of the loosely affiliated factions, whether they be the friends or the enemies of truth. The game does not officially support a single-player option, but if one suffers from dissociative identity disorder or a similar illness, it is quite possible to use the multiplayer rules by yourself.
Characters are represented by 4 colors and have 2 stats, Resolve and Candor.
Green. The enemies of truth are composed of shadowy executives, who are red, and clueless stooges, who are yellow, in honor of their basic cowardice.
The 4 types of gameplay include moving, disagreeing/gotcha, buying, and spreading information. Players can win by having the highest single number rolled in a disagreement or by collecting tools of the trade cards. Information tokens are the currency of the game and can be used to purchase cards or researchers.
Larry Truck will roll 2 dice. The highest single number Larry Truck rolled is a 6. Monroe Boswell will roll 3 dice. The highest single number Monroe Boswell rolled is a 4. Therefore, Larry Truck is the winner of this round of the disagreement, and Monroe Boswell's candor level is lowered by 1.
The game was available in both physical and digital formats. However, Brian received a cease and desist letter on this one for the physical version, which resulted in the original being removed from the market. However, what you guys are seeing on the screen is actually the innovative version. I also want to mention there's a free version of the game that can be played on Tabletopia if you want to play the original, but Brian made an announcement regarding the redesign of the Pizza at McDonald's board game to comply with these copyright regulations, and the new version is called the board game adaptation of an investigative journalism program about fast food pizza. Brian's comedic writing skills led him to create his own unique piece of literature, which he did in 2020's How to Be an Investigative Journalist. The book offers guidance on how you, the listener, can earn the tools that you need to succeed. Thanks to Brian's unique narrative, you too can become an investigative journalist. Let us now take a look at page 33, where we as the viewer can learn to nurture our own curiosity. Because to Brian, in his humble opinion, curiosity is simply not a skill, but rather a matter of experience.
Many are the times when I have telephoned them and asked if they remembered when McDonald's served pizza. The answer is almost always no. Sometimes they just hang up. Now, to an extent, I understand why this would be. The average McDonald's worker is quite young, having been born at least 2 decades after the heyday of McDonald's pizza. But consider this. I was born a lifetime after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, dramatized in the great film Pearl Harbor. But I am still aware it happened. And this is not because the date of its anniversary is labeled on my wall calendar, as I do not even own a wall calendar.
We then learn how we can develop our sources, which Brian mentions his favorite source, the telephone book. I don't really have one.
The telephone book. You will instantly see it for the treasure trove of information it is. Printed before what was then only a modest amount of personal injury attorney ads, are the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of everyone living in your metropolitan area. This may be difficult to believe for someone born after the golden age of the telephone book, but at the time, this kind of doxing was de rigueur. Please note, however, that the sources you find here will most likely be in their 80s, 90s, or low 100s today, so you will want to speak up when you call them. It is also possible to hire a private investigator to uncover a potential source's telephone number, but I would discourage it. In my dealings with private investigators, I have found them to be rather unpleasant people.
Brian stresses the significance of maintaining politeness at all times. Like, think about it. Think about it if you're talking to somebody with key information. You need to make sure you maintain professionality at all times or they will hang up.
Wait, the only thing he screwed up was professionalism, not professionality. Right.
Who's the investigator here, John? Like, consider if you're talking to someone with key information. Hypothetically speaking, what if you see yourself as a McDonald's pizza oven repairman? I mean, think about it. McDonald's pizza ovens are so complicated. Think about the rigorous training one has to go through. It's probably breaking the code of ethics. Some are reporting that they're losing their memories. Like perhaps McDonald's is injecting people with an IV administered super drug. So that means all that information just stays within the muscle memory, which means that they can't spread the information. They just know it. Which means it makes sense why McDonald's doesn't want to trust their day-to-day employees to basically learn this information, which explains why the McDonald's ice cream machine is still fucking broken.
Now, imagine you receive a telephone call from an investigative journalist who obtained your number in the telephone book or a disreputable personal information brokerage website. Hello, you say, trying in vain to mask the stress in your voice. Tell me everything about McDonald's pizza, the journalist screams. Tell me now or else, you foolish gentleman. I do not know about you, but if I were this mechanic you are pretending to be, I would immediately hang up my telephone and say to myself either out loud or with my mind mouth, what a rude person. I do not need this kind of drama in my stressful life. But if we stretch our imaginations to their very limits, we are able to rewind this moment in time and envision a different outcome. Hello, says the investigative journalist. My name is Ryan Johnson, no relation. I am an investigative journalist researching McDonald's pizza. Would you mind discussing any information about said pizza that you would be willing to share? There will be no negative consequences if you do not do so, you intelligent gentleperson. My, how polite, you would either say out loud or with your mind mouth. And in English, which you speak fluently? Yes, I think I will share some information about McDonald's pizza.
Brian details how to go undercover and protect one's identity. But one problem. How does one project all the information that they gain throughout their investigation? Brian lists his methods.
The newspaper. Pros. Despite falling on hard times recently, newspapers are still read by hundreds of people worldwide. If you go to the fish market to purchase a fish, your fish may come wrapped in your journalism. Cons. Modern nutrition has greatly increased the throwing strength of paper boys, resulting in thousands of dollars per year in property damage. Newspapers are hemorrhaging money from paying these bills. Sometimes people bring home a piece of newspaper with important investigative journalism printed on it, but most of the time they immediately throw it away due to the strong fish smell. The television. Pro. The visual medium allows you to include information that would be impossible to convey in print, such as a computer-animated reenactment of someone pulling a McDonald's pizza from an oven and handing it to a customer whose eyes sparkle with the belief that there will never come a day when McDonald's pizza is not available. Con. Many televisions are quite heavy, and if one of your investigative reports happens to be playing when a television falls on its owner's head, you could be held liable for their hospital bills in certain municipalities. consult local laws. The podcast. There are only pros.
Lastly, Brian talks about protecting oneself. But since I'm an American, I already got that covered. Which means
investigative journalist oath. I,
Uncle Unbaited, do solemnly promise that heretofore,
under the watchful eyes of the God,
within earshot of his hearful ears, and I will devote my life
to the quest for truth
in all its forms,
be it within witness testimony,
public record,
private record,
a handwritten note wrapped around a rock through my window, or any other form which would reasonably fall under the Merriam-Webster
definition of the word all,
at the potential expense of all of life's petty pursuits, up to including friendships,
romantic entanglements,
and making enough income to comfortably pay for food and shelter without resorting to
IOYs,
short for IOUs.
In the God's name.
Amen.
As I stand wearing my badge of honor, I find myself immersed in a unique quest. It's a journey led by a man who is fervently digging into an issue that has remained hidden from the public eye. This man approaches his mission with unwavering integrity and candidness, focusing on a subject so niche that it thrives in the recesses of a dystopian social media platform. Brian, a torchbearer in this quest, has taken me on such an introspective journey. It's a journey that transcends the mundane, plunging deep into my essence. As I, Uncle Unbaited, extend heartfelt thanks for accompanying us on this very curious journey. As for Brian, your wonderful presence has enriched this exploration. Undaunted by dividends, he unveils his discovery to society. And while issues like armed control and homelessness clamor for our attention, a more whimsical enigma beckons on. Whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's?
Listener Uncle Unbaited asks, have there been any severe nightmares or moments of disassociation following your diagnosis? Thank you for the cue. No, I have not experienced severe nightmares or moments of disassociation. Just normal ones.